He said, is there a possibility of Bitcoin going to 10 million per coin? Yes.
You know what never gets old, specifically here in Dubai? The view of the 22nd floor.
22nd.
That's just...
Why you have to tell them
nice.
where I live? It is nice. Dubai, dude, I think Dubai has made good moves for people to realize that this is a great place to live. A lot of people have misconceptions and some stereotypes of what UAE is, or what Middle East in general is. And when they come to Dubai, they see that it's a very westernized city.
Absolutely.
And I think they did great moves by letting people come quite easily. I think Dubai was one of the first ones, obviously, definitely the first big city to let people come just with a PCR test. And what I heard that actually affected the economy, for example, real estate prices were really down, especially when we're talking about the more luxurious ones. And they shot back up 30% is because people, like rich people, they thought, oh, where I can travel to spend time. Maybe they've never been to Dubai. They came in, they said, wow, why not buy an apartment here? So that was quite in demand. So think about it. There are not a lot of places that, the only thing that actually is different now is that you have to wear a mask everywhere. Other than that, it's quite regular. If you're not like a nightclub guy, it's very similar to just a usual normal until the summer comes, of course.
When I meet people that are in crypto or saying they're in Bitcoin and everything, what the most interesting question that I always ask, and I ask you this as well here on this undisclosed location. When did you first heard about Bitcoin? When was the very first time you heard about Bitcoin?
I remember it exactly, and like it was yesterday, to be honest. It was 2013. The 27th of January, 2013. So wow. Almost like
by the date even?
Yes, because I've been listening to Joe Rogan's podcast since 2011, maybe 2012. I'm a big MMA fan, and I first knew Joe Rogan even before his podcast. So when he started the podcast, I started following it, and for the first time, he got a Bitcoiner in the show. His name is Andreas Antonopoulos. In my opinion, if anybody wants to learn what Bitcoin is without the guys for the Bitcoin price hype and shoutings and propaganda, he explains the technical aspects and the philosophy behind Bitcoin probably better than anyone else. There are new influencers who do a great job too, but he is the one who really brings that substance and understanding of what Bitcoin really is. And he went on Joe Rogan's podcast. I think he was the perfect guest at that time to do so, because he never speaks about the price. He speaks about the impact that Bitcoin can do and how you should treat Bitcoin, how you should, buy it, how you should store it, etc. So he came there, and the ideas, I'm a bit of a libertarian, and the ideas of that and how that empowers this, let's say, political ideology, really I really liked it. I really liked the fact that, listen, you can be your own bank. You are the one who stores your money. That's how it should be, right? You should be the owner of your money, because when you deposit money to the bank, you have a very kind of big misconception. You're misled by thinking that this is your money. This is not your money. This is the money that's at the bank that you can withdraw in some cases, in some scenarios. For example, look at Lebanon. People cannot withdraw money. Banks freeze it. It's a centralized system that controls your money. So the idea that you are the sole owner of that asset really spoke to me. And for the first time in history, there was this digital thing that cannot be just copied and replicated. If I send you a picture or I send you some sort of file, you can make multiple copies of it. With Bitcoin, you know that Bitcoin is real. There cannot be more Bitcoins just made out of thin air. There needs to be some work, some computer work, needs to be some money put in order to mine Bitcoin. So all these ideas really resonated with me. So he went on the podcast again for the second time.
How much was it apart?
I think like 5 months.
Okay.
And then I said, all right, I have to get in.
Okay, so the first time you understood the idea and, let it sink. But it was not the time when you basically invested, right?
No, the first time I invested was October or November 2013. I paid around $150.
And what was the difference from the first time you heard it to the 150 price tag?
I would have to check there. I don't think that there was a big difference, but just like literally in a few weeks, it shot up to $400. And then I looked at it like, damn, this could be an investment, right? But of course, it wasn't like a huge amount that I bought. It was big for me at that time, but I thought, man, this could be something interesting. This is a bet, a very risky bet. However, with every single day that Bitcoin didn't die, it became more resilient, and that risk was mitigated. So I believe it's the same way right now.
But you didn't know straight away that this will be a huge thing, right?
No, and I think anybody that says that they know the future of any asset, they're charlatans, they're liars. You can make an intelligent decision, an informed decision, and high conviction investment, but you never know for sure. When really kind of Bitcoin, the whole crypto market made a lot of buzz the first time it really went into the mass kind of attention was in 2017. And we were all awed and thought that this is it. Bitcoin is going to, take over central banks, that people are going to use only Bitcoin. Because I remember when we started a crypto company in early 2017, we would speak to, for example, lawyers who would incorporate our company, and we were saying like, we want to open up a crypto company. So
what the hell is that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is this? It wasn't a word. It wasn't a definition. It was like a sound, like they heard about it somewhere. And then you say Bitcoin, oh, Bitcoin, the criminals' money. There are some people who are quite ignorant still. They hold on to this narrative, which is quite funny. I think that they should choose some new arguments. But yeah, at that time, it was not that well known. And then fast forward like 9 months from that, 8 months, everybody wanted to buy Bitcoin. Like, I speak about it in my TEDx talk about crypto, that there's this Uber driver signal that they want to buy Bitcoin, and they talk about Bitcoin, and they talk about, different currencies like XRP and Ethereum. They go deeper because they think that Bitcoin has already shot up so high it will not go further. Yeah, so it is fascinating until now and continues to see these incredible cycles, to see that, people believe in Bitcoin, and that's always attached to the price. And when Bitcoin goes down, people believe that it's dead and it has no substance, it has no usage. When it goes up, everybody thinks that it's the new world's currency. It's the psychology, a very similar psychology to any investment asset, and buy high, sell low.
Now for you personally, I mean, there's people saying Bitcoin is a currency, yeah? There's people saying that's digital gold. Some people are saying it's art. What Bitcoin is for you personally?
That's a very good way of putting it. What is it to me? Because it can be different things for different people, not necessarily universal. For some people, it can be a collectible. For some people, it could be a currency. But for most people, it is either a store of value, or as the narrative goes right now, it is the gold 2.0, the digital gold. I mean, the narrative changes as the price change, as I mentioned. People don't believe in it anymore when it goes down. They believe in it when it goes up. And right now, the consensus is the majority of people say that it's digital gold, and I believe in it. I believe that it's a kind of a very speculative form of defense against inflation. I do not necessarily believe that there's going to be a hyperinflation, but don't tell me that inflation is not is fully controlled, and it's balanced by Fed. So for me, yeah, it's still a speculative asset. There are some Bitcoins I have a certain threshold that I will never sell in case it becomes a universal currency, which honestly I have a difficult time believing that. And the other side of Bitcoin, yeah, if the price is right, I believe that it will be time to move to another asset. You're a speculator, I'm a speculator. I believe that it's but some of the Bitcoins I will never sell.
Hodl.
Hodl. I don't know if it's even hodl. It's like locked. It's done. It's the Bitcoins that I will use and not sell. So yeah, different things for different people.
When I was thinking about Bitcoin, and I didn't know if I shared it before with you, but I was thinking, what could be in the real world, this is something that people compare it to because, Bitcoin is the digital asset. So what is it comparable to a real world asset, right? And I was thinking, and let me know what you think, but, I was thinking like, well, this Bitcoin thing is more art than other because yes, or you can basically I was comparing Bitcoin to the picture of Mona Lisa. Okay, now let me explain this. You could potentially go out there and pay with Mona Lisa, right? You can go and you can choose a big yacht, right? And you either can pay by tendies or you can pay by a Mona Lisa picture, right?
More like a warship.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you pretty much sure. With some knowledge that you can say what is the real Mona Lisa, right? With people that know the art thing. And, there's just this, you cannot copy a Mona Lisa really. You can make like copies by drawing it and so on, but there will be always this one Mona Lisa that can be, undistinguished by expert and so on. So I was thinking, it's very much like this art piece because it's not really a currency, though people using it, right, as a currency to pay people. People can, as you said, it's basically not fakeable. Obviously, I can show you now a Photoshop screenshot of my exchange account with 50,000 Bitcoins in it, but, it would be not the real thing. So considering that, Bitcoin was such a great success because so many people could, invest in it so easy, basically just buying it and holding it. Do you see because this is a very, very asked question, what is the next Bitcoin, right? Is it more of an altcoin, maybe, a Ripple or the other guys, or is it maybe something totally different into a form of asset? We had this waves, right? We had the wave of the internet, right? And then social media came out of that. Bitcoin came out of that. Great internet companies. One of the most valuable companies went out of that. Right? Before we had the computer, right? The computer revolution. But it was never so easy to be on such a trend like Bitcoin just by buying it and holding it, right? And believing in it. And I mean, the hardest part would be to stick with it when it went from 10 to 100, from 100 to 10,000 and so on. Do you see anything quite similar to Bitcoin that's slowly, getting the attention or seeing an industry that could be the next big thing?
Short answer is no. Long answer would be, what is the goal? Is the goal to have bigger returns than Bitcoin? Yes, that can be done with any coin listed on CoinMarketCap, any coin listed on exchanges. That can happen. And there will be some coins that will outperform Bitcoin this year and in 2 years, maybe in 5 years. And even risk-adjusted returns, that could be possible. But when it comes to let's say, the established product market fit. For a person who came from startups, product market fit is the holy grail. And Bitcoin right now, honestly, is the only cryptocurrency that has reached that real product market fit. As mentioned, Gold 2.0, it's no longer a cyberpunk's money. It's no longer a young man's game with, and emphasis on game. Big institutions, Wall Street legends come in and buy Bitcoin. And, we're going to see a Bitcoin ETF very soon. I just spoke with actually the most informed person on earth about ETFs, Eric Balchunas, and he has spoken about it. He said that it's inevitable now, which has been a dream for Bitcoiners for a long time because it should, bring that mass adoption. I have my own thoughts if Bitcoin's ETF is going to be good or bad for Bitcoin, but as mentioned, short answer, no. Other cases, let's say smart contracts, NFTs, ICOs, other crypto offerings. Yes, there are platforms who technically do a better job than Bitcoin, but those are still trying to make themselves real players in the industry, whereas Bitcoin is the big daddy. So if we want to take the equivalent in the commodities, it's gold, Ethereum is silver, Cardano might be uranium, and so on. If we want to take analogy in the stock market, Bitcoin would be essentially S&P 500. Ethereum would be Tesla stock, and potentially, Cardano or Chainlink would be Virgin Galactic. So your viewers would have that really ingrained. Yeah. So honestly, I'm open-minded. I would consider myself a Bitcoin maximalist, but I'm always open-minded, and I'm very fascinated what happens with the space. It's just interesting, these trends that happen, especially on the smart contract blockchains like Ethereum. Every year there's something new. Like 2016, 17, there were ICOs. Then in 2018, there were IEOs, or IEOs and initial security offerings. 2019, DeFi. 2020, also DeFi. 2021, NFTs. That's kind of, still I would say peaking and just going down just a little bit. But we have now, decentralized exchange offerings. And all these things are popping up, new cycles coming in. So it's still, these smart contract blockchains are still trying to find their purpose in the market, whereas Bitcoin has already found it, in my opinion.
There's a lot of people that are actually asking me about Bitcoin, and I either say, go for Bitcoin or go and ask Justin, because I'm personally not holding Bitcoin, and maybe I should have. But
you did, right? And you sold it at a good price at a certain point, right?
Yeah, but those were just like minimal amounts, that were really, really insignificant. But what I really, try to tell the people that, those main players usually have much bigger performance over the years. So it's much better to be invested when the smartphone came out into Apple, rather than, Apple, Motorola, Nokia, HTC, Samsung, or rather be in Tesla than Tesla, Volkswagen, NIO, and XPeng, and rather be in Bitcoin than in Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and whatever, So, but I want to jump a little bit on this waves, if we are looking a little bit back over the last couple of months and years. For me personally, I think also for the viewers, there were like two big waves. The one that you rode quite successfully, the ICO wave, right? And now we are going into this NFT wave, right? Which I remember we were sitting somewhere and you said, like, if I heard about that, and I said, no, I have no idea what is an NFT.
That was like 6 months ago or something.
Exactly. And then the next thing I know, the NFT was sold one NFT was sold for $69 million, right? So do you want to just jump in what made ICO so successful and what an ICO is. And then if you think it was, and I guess we could agree or make the point that it could be or was a little bit bubbly, right? And if you see the same in NFTs right now.
Yeah, it's just the same thing that I talked about. These cycles that happen, every year there's a new theme, there's a new narrative. And for example, what is an ICO? ICO is an initial coin offering, which is essentially an alternative method of fundraising. And we were essentially, we raised a lot of money, but we weren't the biggest players. There were companies that raised there was a company that raised $4 billion with an ICO.
That's insane.
I actually don't know how they're doing right now. But similar to NFTs and to DeFi, and ideologically, this has a big idea, a good idea. Both ICOs and DeFi and NFTs, but it is in just such an embryonic phase, such an early phase that it's still hard to tell whether that's going to have substance, whether that's going to help the market, where it's going to find its space. Same with as mentioned, NFTs. It's hard to wrap your head around why a certain a JPEG file would go for a few $1 million. But the idea that you can the technology itself, the infrastructure itself, which can only be limited by a human's creativity, lack of creativity, or the barriers of creativity. That could be a lot of interesting things can be done, both with DeFi and ICOs. But there has to be those periods where people learn what that is, how to use it, how to implement it, and that's only going to happen. Dubai Lambos.
Dubai Lambos, exactly.
And that's only going to happen through trial and error. A lot of them are going to fail. Some of them are going to succeed. And then again, we're not assured that an ICO model is a great model to theoretically, it is a great model to raise money and to help with liquidity for investors. In practice, it was a little bit different because people were greedy. For example, us, when we raised an ICO, we set a cap of how much money we can raise because we said, all right, we want to have a certain amount of token holders and not to expand. We raised $37 million in 18 minutes, but actually we had to reject $60 million more. And so we raised $100 million and we had to reject that money. Some ICOs went in and, they did a $4 billion ICO because they knew that they could. So all these things, for people just to know, everybody has to understand that they come into the most dangerous, most risky and volatile asset that there is.
How long the ICO trend or this bubble took place? What would you say? What like when it picked up the majority of the people in the scene until the ICOs didn't raise any money? What do you think? What would be the time frame?
So I know where you're disposing this question to understand, all right, how long the NFT market is going to last. It's hard to tell, when it was bubbly. It started becoming, let's say, the first kind of ICOs that started raising money with, let's say, just only the beginning stages of the product, where in, let's say, March of 2017, that's where you would start hearing from, regular startup guys about ICOs. Okay. But and then like 2017, October, September is when everybody talked about it, and then everybody wanted to do one.
Right.
Everybody wanted to release their own token. And then it kind of ended. It was really hard to raise money in March 2018 already.
Okay.
Then it was...
So about a year.
But like from the, let's say, the early adopters or medium stage adopters to like the difficulty of raising. And there were ICOs up until now. There were all ICOs going throughout. They were just the amounts that they raised haven't been as big.
Yeah, and I think, an ICO is much more complicated than an NFT, right? I mean, also to, for people to understand, okay, this will become a company, this will become a project. I need to look into those people, maybe what they have done before, right? And what the project is about. Is there market space for it? Versus, oh, this is a very important, FX artist that created this beautiful picture. I will buy it, and you just hold it for forever. And what is always fun that exactly this kind of things happen and develop a very quite popularity when we are in the middle of a huge bull run, right?
That's called profit spilling. People make money with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Then they go into Ethereum. Then they go into XRP or Cardano. Yeah. Don't want to put them in one sentence, but let's say into Cardano, into Chainlink, then to crypto hedge funds, and then that cycle, whether that would be an ICO, an NFT, and whatever. The difference between an ICO and an NFT, yes, I agree. NFT is more of a what you see is what you get. Kind of, it's easy to understand. Oh, I like this unicorn's GIF, and I'm gonna buy it. Is it really worth $2 million? No, it's with the intention of selling it for a higher price. So the difference again was a little bit that with ICOs, we released a token. We never facilitate trading. We never said, buy our token, to trade it on exchanges. It was always to use in the product, and we successfully implemented that. Whenever people use Moneta products, the token is being used in the system. But when it comes to the NFTs, it's literally just a marketplace. And the difference is, for example, with Moneta token, we have, the company, I'm no longer with the company, as you know, but we have 402 million tokens, and they're all the same, which means, again, we don't facilitate trading. We never, asked people or told people to trade the token. But if they want to do it, they can always sell the token because there's liquidity there, and it's the same token. You don't have to like one of 402 million tokens versus another. Whereas in NFT, there is an art. So in addition to that, you want to sell it, a person who's buying it, he has to like the art. He has to like the content. So what that means is that the liquidity with ICOs, the chart might look like this, and the order book is happening like this. Whereas in NFTs, there could be a $1 million price tag. Somebody bought it for $1 million. And then let's say the market crashes and the buyer the floor is so low, there's not going to be something in between because you have to like the art because every single unit is different. It's a risky bet for anybody to make. But, if you're young and, you're interested in technology and you understand technology, why not? I never tell people to buy certain crypto or even Bitcoin. I never say, oh, you should buy Bitcoin. I say that you should read about Bitcoin. For example, a great book about Bitcoin is the Bitcoin Standard. Okay. With the Bitcoin Standard, you will understand what more like the evolution of money and why Bitcoin potentially can be the last currency. Again, take it with a bit of a grain of salt and think about it as a hypothetical scenario, because Bitcoin is not a panacea. There are faults in Bitcoin, but I never say buy Bitcoin. Always educate yourself. And if you're buying Bitcoin, start with a small amount, understand how it works. And if you like it, then put more, and depending on your risk appetite. And I believe your viewers are with a bit of a larger risk appetite, hunting for 10 baggers.
For the tendies, right?
Tendies, yeah.
Let's go a little bit back to Bitcoin. Are you currently holding any, percentage-wise of your portfolio?
Yes, a big percentage. Yeah.
Okay. So you still see a big potential in the versus, for example, S&P.
I just believe that Bitcoin, it might still be undervalued in my opinion. Again, it's a high conviction for me. I don't know if that's going to be the case. If I would be sure 100%, that would be 100%
So this
of
is
my
not
portfolio.
a financial advice.
No, I don't even know why people are just always making that disclaimer. Like, okay. If I say it's not a financial advice, does it not make it a financial advice? So it's a high conviction, but it's not 100%. It reflects my, percentage of my portfolio, because I believe that, equities are quite expensive. But I also advocate and believe in what you are saying for quite a long time, is that as long as the money printer is making that beautiful noise, as long as, there's going to be some help and interest rates are going to be low, two-trick pony, the Fed, I believe that, everything is going to get more expensive. Yeah. It just makes sense, right? There are going to be some bumps. But then again, in the podcast that I spoke with Eric Balchunas, I asked him, doesn't that just off-put a bigger risk, a bigger, cataclysm scenario? And he said, absolutely. It was like this fast. Absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, I think Bitcoin is an on-risk asset, and it's not for granted that if everything falls, Bitcoin is going to be not correlated. Most likely it's going to be correlated like it was in the 2020 March. And then it decouples, but it takes some time. And, for a lot of people, it is difficult not to sell Bitcoin when it goes down a lot.
Right.
And or not to sell it when it goes up very, very fast.
True. But I think and this is something that you see in equities in general as well. If you have like this equities that got a lot of media attention, right? Like, Tesla shares and everything. When they go significantly down, there's always some people waiting exactly for those moments, to put more money into it. So I think, at least something very, very tragically happened to the Bitcoin. I don't know, maybe some big announcement by governments, though I don't think, they can somehow limitate that so much. But, I think that we passed that, area where we go back to a $10,000 Bitcoin, but you never know. Like you said, is there any strategy that you follow? Is there like a strategy where you say, hey, I buy always more Bitcoin when there's big news, for example? Or is there like, a trading pattern, or you are trading in and out? Or is it like you're just holding and enjoying the Dubai life?
Yeah, I rarely trade Bitcoin. If I trade, I go very heavy, but it has to be a very high conviction. So in the past year, my trades that I made just made profit that, covered, a decade by two things. Like when I heard that MicroStrategy is putting money into the US listed public company is putting money in crypto.
This was a big news, right?
Of course.
It
was big news in the crypto community, but then the big news in the whole investment community was then when Elon Musk started talking about Bitcoin.
Right. Or PayPal and Square, right?
PayPal and Square, exactly. I had some people here in Dubai who are ultra wealthy, who, we debated about Bitcoin. They said, governments are going to ban it. It's not backed by anything. And all the criminals' money, all the old arguments. And then when the PayPal news happened, they called me and I said, how I can buy Bitcoin. So the old school people, they have to get some stamp of verification from the establishment, from the established brands.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So that's when they buy it. So I go into these trades only when I have very high conviction, but the purpose of the trade is to stack up more Bitcoin.
Okay.
And will it go to 10,000? Possible if, something wrong happens, but it has to be something like quantum computing news, but then again, quantum hashing, like quantum, a protection and a Bitcoin protocol also could happen. Then let's say some fault in the code could happen, or a hack could happen. Bitcoin blockchain potentially is hackable. Nobody has hacked it yet. And there are reasons why it's not worth to hack it, but there's a possibility. I'm talking about the worst case scenarios where Bitcoin can go to 10K. And, just to kind of top it off, there are two camps still as of yet. Some people who are saying that Bitcoin is going to go to 0, and some people who are saying that Bitcoin is going to go to 1 million, and that's going to be like a central bank's reserve currency, like a world's reserve currency. And I think like everything in investing, in business, and in nature, the truth is somewhere in between.
Right.
I don't think that Bitcoin is going to go to 0. I think that that's less likely scenario than it becoming a reserve currency. But then again, for it to become a reserve currency, it would make me and people who, hold Bitcoin like they're like central banks,
Right, yes.
The governments are not going to let it happen. And as I mentioned, the narrative changes as the price goes up, which means 2 years ago, nobody spoke about $1 million Bitcoin. There were some people who were speaking about $100,000 Bitcoin, which now seems very realistic.
Yes.
About 200,000 Bitcoin, $250,000 Bitcoin, but nobody spoke about $1 million Bitcoin. Now I'm seeing price predictions of like $1 million, $2 million of Bitcoin. So, just take it with a grain of salt. Everybody has a horse in a race. If they hold Bitcoin, people who hold Bitcoin, they're going to praise Bitcoin. People who don't hold Bitcoin, they're going to hate on Bitcoin. Try to, make your own arguments and understand. Just listen to both camps. That's when when you're going to make an intelligent and informed decision.
What would be the event or one of those events where you would say goodbye to most of your Bitcoin holdings? Is there anything in your scenario, in your mind, where you say, wow, when this happens, I'm definitely going away from Bitcoin?
I think that those scenarios that I had in mind, we're already in that escape velocity where we've passed that point. I mean, let's say a year ago, if I would have answered your question by saying if the United States bans Bitcoin, and bans Bitcoin means, bans exchanges, you cannot ban Bitcoin as a technology. But yeah, if US bans Bitcoin, then yeah, I would definitely sell it. That was a year ago. But now, if you're an S&P 500 holder, indirectly, you're holding Bitcoin.
Right.
If you're a Tesla holder, you're kind of exposed even more to Bitcoin. There are big companies like Fidelity and ETFs that are coming up to incorporate, to add Bitcoin. I think that, with more and more, and the community of not only engineers, but now marketeers and financiers, there are lobbyists of this. There are people in Congress who talk about the benefits of Bitcoin. So I believe that, the US is no longer capable of capable, but I don't think that it's going to be one of their moves. There might be some restrictions that everybody has to disclose their Bitcoin holdings or something like that, but that it would ban Bitcoin, I don't think that that's going to happen. So that was one of the scenarios.
Okay. So why do you think it will not happen? Because, it could be, there could be in the power to say at some point, whoever holds Bitcoin, is making a crime. For example, right? They could make this statement, this law, and if they see a big attack on the power of US dollars.
Yes, that makes sense. But then again, US would expose itself or make itself an authoritarian country. Like that sounds like very North Korean-ish, That sounds Chinese, like very China-like, or India. And we saw what happened when India banned Bitcoin. Nothing. Nobody cared. When China bans Bitcoin, it seems to go up. And, the US has tried to ban a lot of things. Didn't go as well. Whenever they try to criminalize something, people tend to want it more.
So don't do that, and then the people.
I mean, again, I think for them it makes sense. Of course, if that would threaten the national security, for example, they would say that Bitcoin's miners and the control of Bitcoin's wallets are mostly in China, and that somehow raises threats to the US security, then there is a possibility. But then I don't believe that would be like a binary ban. That would be more of a kind of restrictions to certain, that wouldn't be good for Bitcoin. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's just, it's resilient, but Bitcoin has survived so many death scenarios and cases where actually Bitcoin, could have died. And I don't know who said it, but there's a good saying: whenever an asset had a possibility or a risk to die and it didn't, you should take notice. And Bitcoin, a lot of people hate it, a lot of institutions hated it, a lot of smart people like Howard Marks, a great investor, he hated it, and then he changed his mind. So it's going to be a very interesting development to see what happens.
Is there any stats where most of the Bitcoin holders are? Again,
it's a little bit difficult to say because, you don't tag your wallet to a certain country. If I would have to guess, and I think there are, some reports that they're trying to do that, that would be the US, just because of the exchanges.
Now, talking about Bitcoin price, obviously I want to have 3 things from you.
Yeah, okay. The pessimistic, the realistic, and optimistic.
Bitcoin price end of this year, 2021. Bitcoin price in 5 years, 2026. And Bitcoin price, and I hate to ask the question because I hate it when people asking me about the price of assets, where they can go, and I just say I just ordered specifically for that a crystal ball that I'm frequently using, but what would be the Bitcoin price, the third one, end of this decade? Yeah, in 10 years.
Again, disclaimer, I never make price predictions.
Financial advice, guys.
I never make price predictions, and I think, it's it would be very difficult for me to do that because, I actually made fun of people who make Bitcoin price predictions. You can find on YouTube, there's this keynote that I gave. HODL is cancer. That's how I call it. But not in the terms that you should not HODL Bitcoin, but I said that this whole meme culture of Bitcoin, sometimes it bite people back in the ass. And, there are some predictions, if you make a prediction and you're right, everybody cheers you. Right. And if you're wrong, everybody makes fun of you. And I would say this: I don't see myself selling Bitcoin neither this year or in 5 years. So I'm a believer, but I'm always cautious that anything can happen. So if I would have to say the buffer, Bitcoin will never, in my opinion, go below 3,000. I think there are certain cases, there are certain people who would just buy it just to, have Bitcoin as a collectible. And I think the floor is somewhere there. How high can it go? I mean, it can go 100,000 this year. Look at the past performance. It can happen. It's going to be harder and harder since, it becomes a bigger asset. It became an over $1 trillion asset. The market cap calculations on Bitcoin are a little bit funky because a lot of Bitcoins have been lost. But yes, potentially.
Which makes it just more valuable, right?
Yes. I would say yes. Less, more rare, right? Yes. But then, potentially could be 100,000. In the next 5 years, could be 250,000. So in the range between 3,000 and 250,000.
Do you would say that Bitcoin has the potential to go to $10 million per coin? I know this sounds ridiculous, but I just figuring out if this asset could have the potential to go to $10 million per coin, or something else will attract the masses of those holders to go to something else. Because just to quickly, to end my thought here, if you're looking into companies, if you're looking into, specific assets, they always, tend to have like a lifespan if they don't innovate, right? Yeah. And the innovation opportunities of Bitcoin is quite limited, right? I mean, there is no new features that can come.
It is harder to steer a big ship. Yes, right, to say it like that.
So do you think we rather see, or first, is it, in your opinion, could be possible to go to 10 million? Or do you think the lifespan of Bitcoin will be a little bit, innovated or disrupted by then before we're seeing this kind of crazy numbers?
So let's split this question into two parts. Again, going back to the point of, can somebody some technology overtake what Bitcoin is doing? Potentially yes, but then I would ask, what has overtaken as a store of value, as a commodity? Gold. Silver hasn't done that. Copper hasn't done that. So I believe that Bitcoin, again, it's fully decentralized. Every freaking protocol that is being established right now has a foundation, a CEO, a legal entity, and Bitcoin is decentralized. That's why it's similar to gold, because it's a gift from God. So similarly here, there is no CEO. It is decentralized in a way that you can operate a mining operation. It is decentralized in the way that, again, it doesn't have one person to rely on. If he dies, what happens? There are a lot of crypto influencers, a lot of people, but it doesn't, if one of them goes away or changes his mind, that's not going to affect Bitcoin. Whereas in other protocols, there is one ideological guy or a girl that's maintaining the order of that, and is a spokesperson. What happens if he changes his mind to go to Tibet and meditate? All these things. So I would say it's less likely. It is likely that there are going to be better technologies that are going to do different things. But when it comes to the store of value, digital gold, I don't see Bitcoin being disrupted anytime soon. So, we don't know what's going to happen in 20, 30 years. Yeah. But for now, yeah. And then the second part of the question, we said, is there a possibility of Bitcoin going to 10 million per coin? Yes, there is a possibility, but I only see it if dollar is significantly devalued, which means everything will be at ridiculous prices. Bread will cost like $1,000.
Yeah. And we are talking not about the specific Dubai bread, but the US American bread. Yeah, I think there is always this people that argue with those arguments that Bitcoin is decentralized and revolutionary. Same like people in the Middle Ages for sure said gold is revolutionary, right? We can go to a different culture and travel for weeks, and they accept, also gold to trade, right? How do you see the development of Bitcoin? Because, the advertising that I see a lot by a lot of Bitcoin guys and fans out there, on average 200% increase per year, right?
Yeah.
Which is mostly because this absolutely exponential growth of Bitcoin value over the first few years, and then obviously if you split it over the lifetime of Bitcoin, you have this crazy return. Do you think that it will now a little bit flatten out? Is there any tendency or
It makes sense. It makes sense. The larger the asset becomes, the lesser the exponential returns can happen. And again, look at the Bitcoin chart. It looks insane.
Yeah.
This very well, with Virgin Galactic and Tesla. And whenever something goes up as high as quickly, it's just physics. It might go down, So I think that it's just, I don't believe that it's going to have like 200x returns in the next 6 months, or people like to say that, especially people who have influence in the community, because they want to, ingrain that belief. And it makes sense because you're essentially just developing your position. You want for people to believe, you want for people not to panic what happened in 2018. And as mentioned, everybody has a horse in the race. And I don't see a lot of them in the community that would be not biased. You know, you would see at the faults of Bitcoin, you would see the benefits of Bitcoin, because there's a lot of either, you know, sun and then moon, right? No pun intended. Some people who believe that Bitcoin is gonna fix everything, is gonna cure cancer, and some people who believe that Bitcoin is cancer. So I would like to have a person that would take both sides and, you know, kind of just be balanced out. So now I'm balancing out my information, both watching people who are pro crypto and who are against crypto. And then I make my own mind. And right now my mind is made at, you know, having a significant irresponsible position in Bitcoin.
Now, when people are watching this, and I think, you know, that's one of the interesting questions as well, and you created this stellar appetite for Bitcoin investments. If I would like you to explain my grandmother how to buy Bitcoin and what is the best way to buy Bitcoin, and, you know, through, I think they call it cold storage or on an exchange or Coinbase, what you would say, you know, what is the great and easy way to own some Bitcoins just for their diversification?
It's good that you mentioned about diversification, because it depends on what is your end goal. So if you're just looking to balance out your portfolio with, you know, 2, 3, 5, maybe 10% of Bitcoin, then it's okay to buy the price of the Bitcoin, which means there are some services that could say, all right, you can buy Bitcoin, which means, you know, the price of the Bitcoin, and whenever you sell it, we're just going to give you the difference. I think that's how Robinhood works. Now they kind of changed the whole thing where, you know, they probably had like complaints about it or requests that they're going to have the underlying asset. You're going to hold the underlying asset, and you'll be able to withdraw it to your cold wallet. You know, the wallet that which would be
very important, right, for those people.
Exactly. So for your grandmother, I would say either go to these services that provide, you know, the difference in the price. You know, so I think eToro is one of them, or wait for Bitcoin's ETF. So that would be even easier. That could be done through your bank or through your brokerage. But for a person who is more tech savvy, I would say go to Coinbase. Kraken is a great exchange. Any of those exchanges, like big names, I think either of one of these two are going to be available in your country. Buy Bitcoin, then, you know, for, let's say, anything below $1 million, I would say cold storage is good enough. Like buying Ledger, Trezor, whatever, and holding it there. This is device. It's like a USB device that signs your transactions and holds your Bitcoin. It is a little bit of a learning curve. You do have to write down your seed phrase, which is your master phrase. Right. So if you lose the wallet, you don't lose the money. So all things like that. So yeah, that would be my answer. Just, you know, two positions. If a person is less tech savvy, wait for your brokerage or sign up to one of those services which are going to hold Bitcoin for you. But if you're, you know, someone who's below, I don't know, 50, I think you can handle it. And this is the thing where I think that, you know, Bitcoin is going to eat a lot of gold's market cap, because ask anyone who is below, let's say 35, a young person, whether they would like to buy Bitcoin or gold. And I believe that 80% of them would say, oh, we would buy Bitcoin.
Oh, yes.
And ask a person who's below 20 years old or 15 years old, you know, have you heard, you know, what is gold and what is Bitcoin? They're going to tell you more about like Dogecoin maybe. so they're going to know about Bitcoin. And for young people, they don't even know how to buy gold.
Exactly.
So I think, you know, everything that can be digitalized will be digitalized. Therefore, gold may also be digitalized. And Bitcoin, I believe this is the digital version of gold.
Yeah. And I have 1,000 more questions, but I would love to let the people know where they can find you, right? Obviously, you are also a very public content creator. What is your platform? Where the people can find you if they're looking for you? Wisdom.
I mean, I'm not working on it like methodically to build followers or anything. whenever I have something in mind, I just post it on Instagram stories. I like
it's
it.
Great.
I like it because it's gone. It's just, if people want to see it, they see it. I post some book quotes. I post some financial memes that you send me. And things like that, some of the lifestyle of Dubai, but I don't work at it, to build a following. Maybe I should, I don't know. But Instagram is the way. Just put in Justin _ PKLS, and that's where you can find me.
Fantastic. And you said you are also working on your podcast.
That's in the making. I do want to record at least like 10 episodes before I'm releasing it. But mostly it's the people who I respect, people from investment gurus, like literally people of respected by Wall Street, to tech billionaires, to scientists, but mostly we're still speaking about capitalism, about investing, about business. That's what I love.
Amazing.
And I think we get a call to wrap this up.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Justin, for coming to my terrace here. And I think this will be just one of few, because I think this was amazing, a lot of fun.
I know, because we had a lot of things to cover. We kind of just spoke about this narrow thing, and still I have like 1,000 things to say, and you have a lot of things to ask. I have a lot of things to ask, about your stuff. I'm, very excited to see. I haven't seen it yet. I saw the first course. I didn't see the new course that you have about Virgin Galactic. I think that's something that is important, again, going into Bitcoin, also to make this case and to understand, what it is before jumping in. The train will not leave, don't worry. If you're going to lose out on 20% returns, if that's going to make 100% returns, high conviction is more important, because you're going to hold the asset when it's going to be raining and pouring, and and there's going to be thunder, and if you're not, you don't have a lot of conviction, if you haven't really like read about it and understood it, that's going to be a problem, because whenever there's going to be a 15% drawdown, you're going to sell. And we've seen in Bitcoin that a 50% drawdown is like a little fart before going up.
Exactly.
So
yes.
I think you're doing a great job by going deep. I see a lot of like financial YouTubers, they go kind of mile wide and inch deep, whereas you go, mile deep and inch wide, and I think it's very important by this education. This is the only way how you can make a career or profits in investing, because listen, those people want to shit on Wall Street, but those are educated and smart people, and the only way how you can beat them is through two things, just being research, and then patience. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Justin, and see you soon.
Probably, yes. Let's go eat.